In the busy streets of Manila, the sound of jeepneys, vendors, and laughter mixed in the humid air, creating the rhythm of survival. Among the crowd moved a little girl named Althea, barely 10 years old, her small hands clutching a basket filled with flowers and candies she sold to help her mother. Every coin mattered. Their home was no more than a patchwork shelter of tin and plywood at the edge of the river, but to Althea, it was where love lived. Her mother sewed clothes late into the night while humming lullabies, and her father, before losing his hotel job, used to fill the house with piano music. That piano was sold long ago to buy food, but its memory stayed alive in Althea's heart. Sometimes, she would draw keys on a piece of cardboard and pretend to play the songs her father once did. The notes might have been silent to the world, but in her mind, they were alive, glowing, real. Each evening after selling flowers, she would sit outside their shack, watching lights flicker from distant houses, her fingers moving across the imaginary keys. Music was her escape from hunger and noise. One Sunday, during church, she heard an old upright piano being played by a volunteer. Her eyes lit up like fireworks. After the service, she waited shyly until the crowd was gone and touched the piano for the first time. Its wooden body was scratched, the ivory keys yellowed with age, but to her, it felt sacred. The church's music teacher, Mr. Ramos, noticed her fascination. When she asked if she could try, he smiled kindly and nodded. Her small fingers pressed down awkwardly, but the tune she played, a melody her father had once hummed, stunned him. He listened as the child created harmonies by instinct, not training. "Do you want to learn?" he asked softly. Her eyes widened, and she nodded so fast it made him laugh. From that day, Mr. Ramos became her teacher, giving her free lessons after evening prayers. The church became her classroom, the piano her voice. Within weeks, her playing sounded like pure emotion, a mix of joy and longing. People began to gather outside just to listen to the little girl who played like the rain. In her heart, Althea knew something had awakened. She wasn't just chasing a dream, she was living one, even if the world didn't yet know her name. As time passed, Althea's music began to spread beyond the small community. Someone recorded her playing on an old phone and posted it online. Within days, the video gained thousands of views. Comments from strangers called her the angel pianist and the girl with magic hands. She didn't understand fame, but she could feel hope in her mother's smile. Then one afternoon, as she helped her mom pack clothes at the market, a man approached them. He introduced himself as a producer from Los Angeles who had seen her video and wanted to help her audition for America's Got Talent. At first, Althea thought he was joking. The idea of flying to America seemed like a fantasy, something only people on television did. But after calls and papers and weeks of waiting, it became real. The producer arranged sponsorships for travel and promised her a chance to audition in front of the world. The whole neighborhood came together to help. Street vendors donated what they could. The local pastor organized a small fundraiser, selling homemade food and crafts to cover their remaining costs. The night before their flight, Althea couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, watching stars above the city. "Mama," she whispered, "do you think Papa can hear me?" Her mother smiled sadly, brushing her hair. "He'll be listening when you play." The next morning, they boarded a plane for the first time. Althea pressed her face to the window as clouds floated beneath her, glowing golden under the sunrise. It felt like a dream, one she never wanted to wake from. When they landed in Los Angeles, the air felt strange and new. She looked up at the tall buildings and whispered, "I'll make them hear my music." Holding her mother's hand tightly, she took her first step into a world far from the slums of Manila, carrying nothing but courage, love, and the sound of home inside her heart. The morning of the audition felt like a dream Althea couldn't quite believe she was living. The giant stage of America's Got Talent looked nothing like the church where she used to play. Bright lights, tall cameras, and thousands of people filled the theater. Her small hands trembled as she touched the piano waiting for her on stage. Backstage, her mother hugged her tightly and whispered, "Just play like you do at home, Anik. Play from your heart." When Althea stepped into the spotlight, the crowd quieted. She wore a simple floral dress, her dark hair neatly tied back. The judges smiled politely, but Simon Cowell leaned forward, studying her curiously. "What's your name?" he asked. My name is Althea, she replied softly, her voice barely above a whisper. And where are you from? From the Philippines, she said proudly. Simon nodded. And what will you be doing for us today? I'll be playing the piano, she answered, her accent light but clear. The audience clapped lightly, unsure of what to expect from this tiny girl with big dreams. The music began softly, a melody that spoke of her journey, pain, love, and hope blended in every note. Her fingers moved with the confidence of someone twice her age, each key sounding like a story untold. The theater fell into absolute silence. Even Simon's expression changed, his usual stern look softened, and his eyes glistened. Althea's music rose higher, her emotions pouring out with every movement. She played like she was speaking to her late father, like she was telling him, "Look, Papa, I made it." When she hit the final note, there was a moment of stillness, then the crowd exploded into cheers. People stood, clapping and shouting her name. Sofia Vergara wiped her tears, whispering, "She's incredible." Heidi Klum placed a hand over her heart, smiling in awe. Althea looked around, confused by the noise, until Simon slowly stood up, smiling warmly. "Althea," he said, "you didn't just play the piano, you played our hearts." He reached over and pressed the golden buzzer. The theater filled with golden confetti raining down on her as her mother rushed to the stage, crying and hugging her. Simon walked up, shook Althea's hand, and said softly, "That was pure magic." That night, as she and her mother returned to their hotel, she looked out the window at the city lights and whispered, "Papa, I did it." Within days, Althea's audition went viral around the world. Millions of people shared her video, calling her the little miracle from Manila. News outlets, talk shows, and even celebrities began talking about her. Her shy smile and emotional performance captured the hearts of millions. Fans created hashtags like #AltheaMagic and #GoldenGirlPhilippines. Messages poured in from people saying her story inspired them to never give up on their dreams. But fame was new and strange for her. Cameras followed her everywhere, and interviewers kept asking questions she didn't know how to answer. Her mother stayed close, reminding her, "Stay kind, stay humble, Anik." Despite the excitement, Althea missed home. She missed the warm smell of rice cooking, the laughter of neighbors, and the church piano that first started it all. During rehearsals for the next round, Simon visited her personally. He watched her practice and noticed her frustration. "You're amazing," he said gently, "but don't just play to impress. Play like you're telling your story again." His words stuck with her. That night, Althea sat alone at the piano, closing her eyes as her fingers moved across the keys, remembering everything: selling flowers, her father's lullabies, the sound of rain hitting the tin roof. She realized that her gift wasn't just about skill, it was about heart. Meanwhile, back in Manila, her community organized a watch party in front of the church. Kids held up banners that said, "Go Althea," as neighbors cheered for their hometown girl. When they saw her golden buzzer moment on TV, the entire crowd cried and clapped. For the first time, the little girl from the slums had become a symbol of hope. In America, she continued to prepare, knowing the world would soon watch her again. And this time, she was ready to make them feel every note, every dream, every heartbeat of her story. The lights of the AGT semifinals glowed brighter than ever as Althea stepped backstage, her heart pounding like a drum. The crowd was massive, the energy electric. She could hear the cheering from the audience as the previous act finished their performance. Her hands were cold, her stomach tight, and yet her eyes were calm. She knew this was her moment to prove that her golden buzzer wasn't luck, it was destiny. As the crew adjusted the microphone and tested the piano, her mother held her close and whispered, "Play for your father tonight." Althea nodded, tears forming in her eyes. When her name was called, she took a deep breath and walked toward the stage. The theater filled with silence once more as she sat at the piano in her light blue dress. The judges smiled at her, and Simon gave her a reassuring nod. "What will you be performing tonight?" Terry Crews asked. "I'll be playing and singing a song for my papa," she said softly. The crowd reacted with heartfelt applause. Then, as the lights dimmed, the first note filled the air. Her song began with a gentle piano melody that slowly built into "You Raise Me Up," blended beautifully with an old Filipino folk tune her father used to hum. Her voice carried pure emotion, trembling at first, then growing stronger with each line. The theater went completely silent again. No whispers, no coughs, just hearts listening. Every note seemed to tell a story of love, loss, and faith. Halfway through, her mother could be seen crying backstage, her hand pressed to her chest. When the final note echoed through the hall, the audience jumped to their feet. Simon stood first, clapping, his eyes shining. Sofia Vergara wiped tears from her cheeks, saying, "That was so pure, it felt like heaven." Howie Mandel said, "You are the definition of talent and heart combined." The judges gave her a standing ovation as the crowd chanted her name. Althea bowed, overwhelmed, trying not to cry. Later that night, the results were announced. She didn't win the top spot, she came second by a narrow margin. Her heart broke a little, but the love from the audience filled her with strength. Social media exploded with support. Hashtags like #Justice for Althea and #Angel from Manila trended worldwide. Fans sent messages of encouragement, telling her she had already won their hearts. When the finale week arrived, something unexpected happened. The producers called Althea and her mother to the studio and told them she was being brought back as a wildcard contestant due to her incredible fan response. Althea couldn't believe it, her eyes widened as tears rolled down her face. "I have one more chance," she whispered. This time, she knew exactly what she wanted to do. She wrote her own song, an original composition called Home in My Heart. It was a mix of English and Tagalog lyrics, a tribute to her country, her family, and the journey that changed her life. On the night of the finale, she walked out in a simple white gown under a single spotlight. The stage was filled with soft golden lights that glowed like the morning sun. She began to play slowly, each key touched with emotion. The melody carried memories, selling flowers in the streets, hearing her father's laughter, leaving home, standing on this very stage. When she started singing, her voice trembled with truth. "No matter how far I go, my home will never part. It lives within my music, it beats inside my heart." By the end of her song, many in the audience were crying. Simon stood again, visibly emotional, and said, "You didn't just perform, you healed hearts tonight." Heidi called her a gift from God. Even the other contestants clapped for her with admiration. When the results were announced, Althea didn't take first place, but it didn't matter. Offers poured in immediately, record deals, scholarship opportunities, and invitations to perform around the world. As she hugged her mother on stage, golden confetti fell once more, and Simon whispered, "You'll go far, Althea. Very far." Weeks later, back in Manila, she returned to her community as a hero. Her neighbors had rebuilt the old church piano, and children gathered around her, eager to learn. She smiled and began to play Home in My Heart again, this time surrounded by laughter, warmth, and hope. The music that once saved her was now saving others. The little girl from the slums had become a symbol of dreams that never die, and her melody continued to echo across the world, soft, powerful, and unforgettable.